47 years. 47 years. 47 years in the teaching English and literature. It's marvelous. And he has worked in various organizations and PRs and all that. And 47 years. Very 47 good. years. 47 years in occasion for you English to come to Sri Lanka and enjoy the beauty of Sri Lanka. I think you had a wonderful evening yesterday. And all my colleagues and researchers and educationists from the universities. I met one Trincomalee lecturer who has come to make his presentation. I hope every one of you are going to have a wonderful session today. We are going to have 2 sessions after the plenary. We will be having 1 session here in this auditorium, and the next session we will be having in the multimedia room. In the afternoon after meals, we will be having a technical session here and in the multimedia room as well. So altogether, we will be completing around 30 papers. Of course, there are lesser number of participants, but research is like that, Professor. Right? Always there is since this Sunday, but at least presenters may join right in time. Okay, I wish you a very happy day, and I wish all my Indian team very happier days in Sri Lanka and enjoy the beauty of Sri Lanka. And now kindly invite the General Chair of this event, Dr. Darshana Samaravira. He knows about Professor Patil for a long time, to introduce him for the plenary speech. Dr. Darshana, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kapatigoda, the chief organizer of this event. As he said, my association with Professor Z.N. Patil, his name is Z.N. Patil, but the entire academic world knows him as Z.N. Patil. Right? People think his name is Z.N. So yeah, my association goes back to 2010, and it's almost 12 years. Just counted the number of years when he mentioned that I have a kind of a historical association with Professor Z.N. Patil. So it's a great privilege and honor to have been given this opportunity to introduce Professor Z.N. Patil. With the permission of the Director General, Dr. Navaratna, I'm going to introduce the plenary speaker of today's morning session. Professor Z.N. Patil, currently the President of English Language Teachers Association India, Pune chapter. LTI India is a huge organization. It has many chapters, and he is officially the President of LTI Pune chapter, but he is behind the curtain, right? He is everywhere in LTI. He holds a very illustrious academic profile. He has been teaching English language and literature at several schools, colleges, institutes, study centers, and universities in India and abroad for 47 years. He retired as Professor of English and Head of the Department of Training and Development from English and Foreign Languages University, popularly known as EFLU today, and previously known as CFL, Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, which is, to me, Oxford of the East. This university is in Hyderabad, India. Since then, he has been freelancing in India and abroad. He did his MA, MPhil, and PhD from Pune University. Now, Savitribai Phule Pune University, India. He did a postgraduate certificate in the teaching of English from Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, now known as the English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad, India. He was awarded British Council scholarship in 1990, and he did a diploma and master's in TESOL from University of Edinburgh, where he met our vice chair of the NEC, Ms. Padmini Ranavira, and the friendship goes for 35 years. His areas of interest are English language teaching, pragmatics, stylistics, teaching language through literature, teaching English to multilingual and multicultural groups, teaching English to speakers of other languages, using support materials to teach English, employability skills, motivation, classroom management, teacher development, materials development, and new varieties of English. To his credit, Professor Patel has 20 textbooks, 8 resource books, and 80 articles published in national and international journals. He has successfully guided 10 MPhils and 25 PhD scholars. And presently, some more scholars are working under his supervision. He has also evaluated more than 50 PhD theses submitted to Indian and foreign universities. He has delivered 32 invited and sponsored keynote addresses and 78 plenary talks at national and international conferences in Bangladesh, Britain, Canada, China, Dubai, Germany, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Nepal, Oman, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Thailand, and Turkey. It's indeed an illustrious career, sir. In addition, he has contributed to several seminars and conferences as a panel discussant and panel discussion moderator. He was invited to deliver special talks and conduct workshops for students and teachers at universities in Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Nepal, Singapore, Thailand, UK, and Vietnam. Professor Patil worked as an English language expert on behalf of the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. His job was to develop spoken communication skills of prospective diplomats at the Institute of International Relations, Hanoi, Vietnam from 1999 to 2002. Later, from 2003 to 2006, he served as Senior English Language Advisor in Japan. In March 2017, he was invited as a visiting research professor by the government of Taiwan for 2 weeks, during which he guided professors from 4 universities in Taichung on various aspects of research in language and literature. He has been a senior advisor to 20 online international journals, such as Asian EFL Journal, its sister journals, and its sister journals. He is a founding and executive management member of English Scholars Beyond Borders, an international group which organizes international conferences in various countries and publishes papers in online journals. In recognition of his academic and scholarly contribution and services, he has received a Lifetime Membership Award from English Scholars Beyond Borders, Outstanding Contribution Award from Rajasthan Association for Studies in English, Udaipur, India, Lifetime Achievement Award from North Maharashtra University Teachers Association, Jalgaon, Maharashtra, India, Emeritus Professor Award from Kanya Mahavidyalaya, Jalandhar, Punjab, India, Best Educationist Award from International Institute of Management and Education, New Delhi, India, and Maharashtra Bhushan Rajarshi Chhatrapati Sahu Maharaj State Level Award for Excellence in Education from Milind Shastra, Nasik, Maharashtra, India. And above all, Professor Patel is very authentic and genuine person. Testimony is me. He's been a very senior professor, but he's been a friend to me for past many years and a mentor. And even if somebody is not his student, I have never been his student, but I have been a lifetime student of Professor Patel, and he has been a mentor to me. With sincere thanks and appreciation, now I give the floor to Professor Patel to deliver his keynote, his plenary talk today at this conference, two-day conference to grace the second day. It's over to you, sir. And I'm really honored to have you here.
Good morning, friends. Can you hear me? So I really feel very, very honored in the presence of the Honorable Director General, Dr. No. Am I audible? Yeah, okay. So I really feel very, very honored in the presence of the Honorable Director General, Dr. Navaratna, and my friend and colleague, Dr. Darshana Samaravira, and other colleagues here. I'm extremely happy to be with you this morning. And today I'm going to do something very simple. Usually people talk about very, very big things, but I'm going to talk about very small things, little things, but these little things and small things are very significant. The topic that I'd like to address today is, it's okay, thank you. The topic that I'd like to talk about today is research process simplified, or beginning research. I'm going to talk about different stages that we follow while doing research. Now, when we do research, we have to go to certain processes. And the first process that we need to go through before starting our research journey is to identify the topic, is to choose the topic. Right. I hope I'm audible. Yeah, okay. So when we do research, we follow certain steps, certain stages. We have to go through certain processes. And the first important process that we need to go through before we actually start doing research is the process of selection of topic. Now, how do we select our topic? Suppose I'm a researcher, I want to do Master of Philosophy, I want to do Doctor of Philosophy, I want to carry out my research. So the first question that I need to ask myself is, okay, I want to start my research journey now, and I need to identify my topic. I need to choose a topic, select a topic. So how do I go about choosing a topic or selecting a topic or identifying a topic? Now, I need to keep in mind my own interest. Am I interested in English language teaching? Or am I interested in literature review or literature research? Or do I want to do research in linguistics? So as far as English language studies are concerned, we can think of three different branches. The first branch is literary studies. The second one is English language teaching studies. And the third one is linguistic studies. So I can choose a topic either from this or that area or domain. But I need to, first of all, identify, select, and choose the topic. Without that, I cannot proceed. And I need to be familiar with the topic. I need to have some familiarity with the topic, right? So what is the first stage that I need to go through before I start actually start doing research? I need to identify, choose, or select a topic. And how do I select my topic? On what basis do I select my topic, research topic? I need to ask questions. Am I interested in this area? If I am interested, I should go ahead. Is this area a practicable area, feasible area? Is it a viable topic? Because quite often people choose a topic which is not viable, which is not feasible, which is not workable. So first of all, I need to identify the topic. Okay, now as a researcher, I have chosen my topic. I have selected my topic. I have identified my topic, and I have understood why I am going to do research on this particular area. So that's the first step. Since our time is very short, 25 minutes or so, I'll just briefly touch upon certain things. I cannot delve deep into different processes. I'll just touch and go. So I've chosen my topic. What do I do next? Do you think I need to go to the library and select material? Yes, I can select material. Where do I get my material? I have a particular topic. I want to do research on that particular topic. So I need to start collecting materials. And where do I get my materials? I need to go to the conventional library where there are books and journals and encyclopedias, and I can go through all these genres of information, and I need to identify the relevant material, right? So the first step is I choose the topic. The second step is I start gathering, collecting, amassing material. And where do I get material? I can get material from conventional library, and the library has newspapers, old newspapers, recent newspapers, magazines, journals, books, articles, and encyclopedia, etc., etc. Now, I start collecting material. I start getting material photocopied or Xeroxed, right? And in my room, I have heaps and heaps of photocopies. Do I or can I use all those photocopies in my research process? No. I collect material, but then I need to classify material first. Now, how do I classify material? I can classify material into three categories. One, essential material. Two, necessary material. Three, disposable material, right? I cannot just have essential material. I need to have, necessary material and disposable material. Now, research process is very similar to a flight. Suppose I am flying from Colombo to Chennai and Chennai to Pune, right? And I am the captain of the flight. When I start flying, or before I start flying from Colombo to Chennai and from Chennai to Pune or Mumbai, I need to have petrol. I need to have fuel in my flight, in my aircraft. Now, suppose I fly my aircraft from Colombo to Chennai. I'm flying, I'm cruising, right? And I want to land at Chennai airport, but the airport authorities of India or the people who are working at the airport in Chennai advise me not to land at Chennai because there is a thunderstorm. I cannot land there. So I have no choice but to come back to Colombo. Now, suppose I carry fuel only for Colombo Chennai sector, and my fuel is almost over, and there is a thunderstorm, and I cannot land at Chennai airport. If I have only that amount of fuel on the aircraft, then what will happen? The aircraft will crash. There will be a crash because the petrol will be over, the fuel will be over. So in that case, as a pilot, what I need to do is, okay, I'm flying from Colombo to Chennai, so I need to carry that much amount of petrol or fuel, but that's not enough. In case there is an emergency and I cannot land at Chennai airport, I need extra fuel. So research is very similar to a flight, right? Like, I go to the library and I collect material, but I collect extra material, lots and lots of material, because in case I dry up in the middle of the process of research, I can bank on or depend on the necessary material or disposable material. So number one, I need to select, identify, choose my topic, and I need to keep in mind my interest, the feasibility, the viability, the workability of the topic that I have chosen for my research. And then I need to start collecting material. I go to the library and I access the internet, Google, and other sources, and I collect material, right? But then I cannot use all the material that I have amassed over a year or over 2 years or 3 years. I need to classify my material into 3 boxes, 3 categories: essential material, necessary material, disposable material. Now, when I finish my essential material, I can go to the next box, which consists of necessary material. And just in case that is also not enough, I can depend on disposable material, which is not very important, not very significant, but I can pick and choose and I can use certain ideas from that particular box, right? So I know my topic, I've collected material, I've classified my material into essential, necessary, and disposable. Then I need to systematize. I need to systematize my material. I need to make a beginning and I need to develop my topic. Now let's talk about the beginning process. You know, I want to do research, so I have an intention. I have certain intentions in my mind. The intention is realized, or the intention manifests itself in the form of research questions, right? What is my intention? My intention is to carry out research in the field of English language teaching, for example, right? And this intention manifests itself, reveals itself in the form of research questions. So I have certain questions and I want to carry out my research, keeping in view, keeping in mind those research questions. The research questions are like a compass. The research questions give me a direction. So I have research questions, I have research objectives, and I have some hypotheses. So my intentions as a researcher manifest themselves in the form of research questions, objectives, and hypotheses. Right. Now, the first thing is intention. The researcher has an intention. And as I said, the intention realizes itself in the form of questions, objectives, and hypotheses. Then the next stage is systematizing my material. As I said some time ago, I cannot select everything that I have gathered. I cannot use everything that I have gathered from different sources. So I need to be very selective. Then the intention has to be acceptable to my supervisor. Okay, I go to my supervisor and I say, sir or madam, I have chosen this particular topic. Is it okay? Will you approve this topic? Do you think this is a viable proposition? So I discuss my topic with my supervisor, and my supervisor gives me a green signal, a go-ahead signal, right? So the topic is acceptable to me and my supervisor. The topic also has to be acceptable. The intention has to be acceptable to the examiners, right? Who are going to examine or scrutinize, evaluate my thesis later after 2 years or 3 years. So the intention is there. The intention has to be acceptable to the researcher, to the supervisor, and to the evaluator, to the examiner, right? Then the intention is followed by acceptability of the intention by the other stakeholders. Then, you know, we need to start the process of research. For example, I need to keep certain things in mind because, you know, my experience as an evaluator or scrutinizer or examiner tells me that most people do not know how to go about writing academic thesis or dissertation, right? Let me say something about cohesion. Now, I'm reading a thesis, for example, as an examiner, and I'm shocked because there are no connections between the first chapter and the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth, or the final one. There is no transition from chapter to chapter. There is no connectivity between paragraph and another paragraph. So there is no cohesion. Now, what do I mean by cohesion? Cohesion refers to explicit connectedness explicit connections between sentences, between paragraphs, between subsections, between chapters, and so on and so forth, right? There are no sentence connectors, right? Many people don't know how to use sentence connectors. Consequently, subsequently, as a result, nevertheless, nonetheless, these are some of the examples of sentence connectors. So we need to be proficient in the use of sentence connectors. So there is no cohesion. Let me give you an example of cohesion. Cohesion can be psychological cohesion, chronological cohesion, or logical cohesion. E.M. Forster, in his aspects of the novel, gives us the distinction between a story and a plot. Here is an example of a story. Now, I'm talking about research, but I'm talking about research in a very simple manner, in a non-technical fashion, because I know that many of the members of the audience are students or new researchers, fresh researchers. So I'm simplifying things, illustrating things for their benefit. What is a story? Here is an example of a story. The king died, full stop. The queen died, full stop. Now, do you notice any connectedness between these two sentences? The king died, full stop. The queen died, full stop. Are these two sentences connected? No, they aren't connected. They are not connected. So how can I connect these two sentences? The king died, full stop. Then the queen died. Now, which word have I used to connect the first sentence with the second one? The word is then. Then the king died, full stop. Then the queen died. This kind of cohesion, this kind of connectedness is called, for example, temporal connectedness. Time is important. The word then indicates time, that the death of the king happened, and after that, the death of the queen happened. So there is some sort of temporality or time connectedness. Now I can use another connectedness. For example, the king died, full stop, therefore the queen died. Now in this case, there is a different kind of connection, and this connection is the connection of cause and effect. So the death of the king is the cause of the death of the queen. So the connection can be that of time, that something happens and something else happens after that first thing happens. So the connection can be connection of time, the connection can be connection of cause and effect, or the connection can be psychological. And when we read novels like James Joyce's Ulysses, or Lawrence Stern's Tristram Shandy, these are very well-known novels, and they are called psychological novels, stream of consciousness novels. There is no logic. When we observe how our mind works, we are shocked. We are in fact, we are surprised, because our mind hops from past to future and from future to present. Our mind we have no control over the working of the mind, because we are not yogis. So as T.S. Eliot says, the present was present in the past, and both the present and the future are present in the past. It's a very highly philosophical idea that time is connected. Time is a continuum. We cannot chop down time into past, present, and future. We do it only for the sake of convenience, because today is a consequence of yesterday. There is a Hindi movie called Kal, Aaj aur Kal. Prithviraj Kapoor, Kal, that is yesterday. Aaj, Raj Kapoor, and Kal, Aaj, and Kal. Kal means yesterday, and the other Kal means tomorrow. So this is called genetic connectedness. Before I was born, was I absent? No, I was not absent. I was present in the form of genes in my father, in my mother, in my parents. So I was not absent. I was all the time there in the form of genes in my parents. So before I was born, I was present in the form of genes in my parents. And before my children were born, were they absent? No, they were not absent. They were present in the form of genes in us as their parents and in my father and my mother as their grandparents. So this is called genetic cohesion, genetic continuity or continuation, right? So a plot, a story is a series of thens. I gave you two examples. The king died, full stop, then the queen died, full stop. And the other example was the king died, full stop, therefore the queen died. In the first case, it's a story. A story is a series of thens. This happened, then that happened, then the third thing happened, then the fourth thing happened. So a story is a series of thens, but a plot is a series of therefores. There is cause and effect relationship in a plot. So people usually don't understand the difference, the distinction between story and plot. They think story and plot are the same. No, story and plot are two different things. A story, as I said a minute ago, is a series, is a chain of thens, then. And a plot is a series or chain of therefores. This happened, therefore that happened, therefore that third thing happened. So when we write our thesis, we need to keep in mind concepts like cohesion, and we need to make the most effective use of sentence connectors, transition markers, and so on and so forth. So cohesion is very important. Then coherence. Cohesion is a matter of explicit or overt or evident, visible connections. And these connections are available in the form of synonyms, antonyms, hypernyms, and so on and so forth. Coherence is a matter of connections at the level of meaning. These connections are not available in the form of sentence connectors or transition markers or overt, evident connections of grammar and vocabulary. No. The sentences or paragraphs or chapters are connected at the level of meaning. So we need to keep in mind cohesion, we need to keep in mind coherence, we need to keep in mind the intention, and the intention has to be acceptable to me as a researcher, to my supervisor, and to my evaluator or examiner. Then situationality. Every research document has an intention. It has or it needs to have cohesion, it needs to have coherence, it needs to have information, informativity. That is, sometimes information is available in the form of data, in the form of data that we collect through interviews, to observations, to questionnaires or opinionaires, and so on and so forth, right? So intention, then cohesion, then coherence, then information, then situationality. There is always some situation. We carry out research. We don't carry out research in a vacuum. There is always some context, and the context is a social context, academic context, right? Linguistic context, physical context, and so on and so forth. So we don't work in a vacuum. We work in some sort of context. So there is always some situation. The situation may be favorable or unfavorable. Then intratextuality. Intratextuality is different from intertextuality. Like, for example, let me give you some simple example. Wordsworth wrote a poem called Daffodils. There is another poet called Robert Herrick. He also wrote a poem on daffodils. Now, when I carry out research in Wordsworth's Daffodils, I'm reminded of Robert Herrick's Daffodils, because there is some commonality, because there is some connectedness between that poem written by Wordsworth and this poem written by Robert Herrick. That is also the meaning of intertextuality. There are two different texts, right? Wordsworth's Daffodils and Robert Herrick's Daffodils are two different, separate texts, right? But I'm reminded of this Daffodils by Robert Herrick when I'm doing research on or research in this particular Daffodils written by William Wordsworth. That is the meaning of intertextuality. Some time ago, I gave you the example of genetic intertextuality. that before I was born, I was there in my parents. Before my children were born, they were there in me. And all of us, my children and I, were there in my parents, right? So intertextuality is very important. And when we write our thesis, we need to try. I'm really shocked. These days, the standards have fallen so much. There is no quality in research thesis or dissertation. First of all, we must remember that we do research in English, right? And my own English is very faulty. There is no agreement between subject and verb in my sentences. I am carrying out research in English language teaching, right? Listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, vocabulary, blah, blah, blah. But when I start writing or when I finish writing, and when you go through my thesis, you are shocked because there are lots of mistakes of collocation, errors of vocabulary, errors of grammar, and so on and so forth. So accuracy is also very important. Presentation is very important, right? So there is situationality, there is informativity, there is cohesion, there is coherence, there is intention. Now, I say that my research project is like a flight, and I am the captain. As a researcher, I am the captain of my project, my research endeavor, research journey, and I know what I'm going to do. I know where I can get material, and I know how to classify material into 1, 2, 3 boxes, right? Then, how about the language? Many people are of the opinion that you should avoid the use of first person personal pronoun. Like, I'm not supposed to use the word I. I chose this topic because I was interested in this. There are many people in India who say, no, 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 no. They are very allergic to the use of I. Now, why are you so fussy about the use of the personal pronoun? Because I know I am the researcher. I cannot separate the researcher in me, from my other personality. When you are watching a dance performance, suppose a famous dancer like Vaijayanti Mala or Hema Malini, I'm sorry, I don't know the names of dancers in Sri Lanka, but I'm sure through Bollywood movies, you are familiar with Hema Malini, you have heard her, you have seen her. So she is a wonderful dancer. Suppose she is performing a dance here and you are watching the dance. Can you really separate Hema Malini from her dance? Can you say this is Hema Malini, she is separate, and this is her dance, and her dance is separate? Are they separable? Can you divorce the dance from the dancer? No. It's impossible for us to separate the dance from the dancer. A dance performance is an actualization or expression of the total personality of the dancer. So the two are inseparable. They are not divorceable or divorceable. Similarly, when we start our research journey, we have two things, content and code. Content refers to the ideas that we are trying to encode in our thesis or describe in our thesis, analyze in our thesis. So content is there. And there is code. Code means language. And when I say language, I mean vocabulary, grammar, and other things. A whole gamut of things, a whole bunch of things are involved in my academic writing or academic composition, right? So the two things are inseparable. Now, I submit my thesis, but my job is not over. What do you think I need to do after submitting my thesis? I started my journey 3 years ago, and 3 years ago, I started my journey with the first stage, and the first stage was the stage of selecting my topic. Then I proceeded, I went one step ahead and said, let me identify my intentions, my objectives, my research questions, my hypothesis. And then I started collecting material, classifying material, selecting material, and doing a whole lot of exercises there. Then I started writing. I started writing my first draft, right? It was not the final draft. And I wrote and revised and edited. In the beginning, I fell in love with every sentence that I produced, every sentence that I wrote. because it's my child. And for a parent, his or her child is the best child in the world. So I fell in love with all the words that I used in my thesis, all the sentences that I used in my thesis. But then I realized that there were lots of sentences which were not necessary, which I could do away with, or which I could get rid of, right, as a researcher. So I submit my thesis, and then I need to start preparing for my viva voce, for my oral examination, for my interview. And I can anticipate questions. Okay, I read the thesis sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph. And I read the paragraph and I say, what kind of questions can be asked on this particular idea, on this particular paragraph? So I anticipate, okay, let me write down the questions. Maybe the examiner, the evaluator who comes for my viva voce will ask me a question on this. So I write all the questions, at least one question on each paragraph. So by the time I reach the last chapter in my thesis, reading the last chapter in my thesis, I have a whole big inventory, a stock, a repertoire of questions, maybe 100 questions or 200 questions. And when I formulate questions, when I anticipate questions, I understand my thesis better, right? In fact, I understand my thesis in the real sense of understanding only when I start writing questions on each paragraph. So these are some of the steps that I wanted to just touch and go, just touch very briefly, just scratching the surface. It's a very, very huge topic, very complex process. So since our time is very short, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I just wanted to scratch the surface. I wish I could delve deep into the ocean of research, but maybe we can do that some other time. So I must leave some time for you to raise questions or to offer comments or to share your experiences as a researcher. So I'm here not to teach you, not to give you anything very important, because I don't think I gave you something very extraordinary or something that you don't know. You know all these things. In my opinion, research is a common sense matter. Many people are scared of carrying out research. Oh, research, no. It's not my cup of tea. Doing research is a matter of common sense, right? It's a simple process. And I ask my supervisees, my PhD scholars, for the first year, please don't read any articles, any books on your topic. Just sit back, relax, and jot down on paper whatever surfaces to your mind as far as your topic is concerned. It might seem very childish that what you are writing, right? You are not reading any books now. I say don't go to the library, don't read any books. First year, you only think about your topic, brood over it, ponder over it. You must have heard a lot of things. You must have read a few things. Use that material that already is available in your mind and jot down, keep your topic in mind and jot down whatever comes to your mind. That will be the foundation. That will be the basis of your structure. You can build your research edifice on this particular solid foundation, right? And then you can sprinkle quotations. You can start reading books and articles in the second year. And you have the base ready. When you are reading books written by different people on your topic or similar topic, you say, oh, I've written something like this in my first chapter. I think this particular quotation can go there. So you can sprinkle these quotations during your second year. And in your third year, final year, you can revise, you can edit, you can delete certain things, you can add certain things, you can modify certain things, you can alter a few things, you can adjust all those things. You can make all sorts of adjustments in your last year, third year or fourth year, right? Now it's a matter of simple common sense. So I would request you not to be scared of research. All of us are capable of doing research. We can start doing research in our classrooms, and it's called classroom research. Maintain a diary, maintain a portfolio, and write down ideas, experiences, success stories, failure stories, and make use of those failure stories, success stories in our research. All right? So thank you so much for listening to me very patiently. I didn't give you anything extraordinary. Yes, sir, I didn't give you anything extraordinary. I spoke about very simple, common sense things, right? So I'm here to learn from you, actually. I am what I am today because my students in India and abroad, my trainees, my supervisees taught me lots and lots of things. So I'm not a self-made man. I owe a lot of things to my students. They are my mentors, right? They are my teachers. They taught me lots of things. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Microphone, please. No, I'm asking him to give you the mic. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Right. Thank you very much.
Yes.
It's excellent presentation and
Thank you,
very simple and but very useful. But here we have a lot of people who have done masters, maybe who have done PhD too.
Mhm.
But when they publish a journal article, so how you relate this? Because most of them are supposed to publish articles, international journal articles. So can you help us
Yes.
with that part? Yes.
Thank you so much for raising this important issue. As has rightly been pointed out by the Honorable Director General, Dr. Navaratna, many of us don't know how to go about writing an article. Maybe we've done a project for our masters. Maybe we've done a Master of Philosophy. Maybe we have done a PhD or a Doctor of Philosophy. But simply because I've done my PhD, I can't take it for granted that I'll be in a position to write a good article, a good research paper. Now, many of us don't know how to write an abstract. You know, an abstract has to be as brief as possible, as revealing. At the same time, it has to be brief and revealing, right? Or telling. So an abstract has to be in 100 words or 150 words, right? And we need to trim. Your original version of the abstract can be 2 pages. Let's say 1,000 words or 1,500 words. Then you read it once and you say, oh no, this paragraph is not necessary. Let me do away with it. And then you proceed and you say, no, these sentences are redundant, repetitive. Let me do away with them. So like that, it's a process of summarizing. It's a process of writing a précis. You know the difference between a précis and a summary, right? A précis consists of limited words. There is a word limit in a précis. There is no word limit in a summary, right? So my abstract has to be like a précis. First, it has to be like a summary. Then I go one step ahead and I write a précis of my abstract, of my summary. Then let me say something about the title. The title has to be brief. Sometimes, like yesterday, I heard so many presentations. The titles were very lengthy, very long. By the time you reach the end of the title, you forget what there was in the beginning of the title. And in my opinion, an ideal title consists of 10 words, 12 words, maximum 10 to 12 words, right? So my title, the aim of my title is to make the future researchers interested in doing research. So it has to be brief. Now, I don't know whether you've heard of J.P. Grice's maxims. Grice is a linguistic philosopher, G-R-I-C-E. Grice is a linguistic philosopher, and he says, when we do academic writing exercise, we need to keep in mind 4 principles, 4 maxims. The first maxim is the maxim of quantity. That is, I am not supposed to write more than what is expected. At the same time, I'm not supposed to write less than what I am expected to write. So I have to be brief. I have to be very, very precise, right? So don't give more information than you are supposed to give. Don't give less information than you are supposed to give. So give only precise, relevant, focused, concise information. That is the first principle of quantity. The second principle is the principle of quality. Don't write anything in your academic exercise, in your thesis or dissertation, for which you don't have evidence. These days, many people say they don't carry out research, but they say, in my research article, it's not a research. Without doing research, they say it is research, right? And they don't have evidence, adequate evidence, but they make statements, black and white statements, statements with finality. It's very difficult to make statements with finality or black and white statements. We need evidence. So the second maxim is the maxim of quality. Don't write that for which you don't have data, for which you don't have evidence, you don't have proof. Maximum of quantity, maximum of quality. The third one is maximum of relation. Don't say anything don't say anything that is not relevant. Sometimes PhD thesis writers write irrelevant things. They want to increase the number of pages, right? They think that if they write a thesis that runs into 1,000 pages, people will be impressed. I will be the last person to be impressed, because I'm interested in a thesis which is very focused, where everything is interwoven very perfectly, where there is nothing that is irrelevant, nothing that is digressive. So quantity says, don't say more than what you are supposed to say. Don't write less than or more than what you are supposed to say or write. The maximum quality says, don't say or don't write anything for which you don't have evidence, you don't have data. The third maxim says, don't write anything that is irrelevant. If you think that certain paragraphs, certain subsections, certain sentences are not relevant, just be ruthless, be merciless, be cold-blooded, and trim them, remove them, do away with them. Because you think my sentence is so beautiful, my paragraphs are so beautiful, my chapters are so wonderful, because you fathered those sentences, you fathered those paragraphs and those chapters, subsections. But you are doing an academic exercise. Maybe when you are talking to people in an informal situation, you can be repetitive, you can be redundant, you can say the same thing in many ways, different ways, but we cannot afford to do that when we are writing an academic thesis, dissertation. So be relevant. Get rid of all irrelevant sentences, paragraphs, sections, and even chapters. All right. And the last principle is the principle of manner. Ambiguity is an advantage in literature, but ambiguity is not an advantage in academic writing. You have to be very, very clear. Ambiguity is a disadvantage, right? So when we write, I always say to my supervisees, your thesis should read like a novel, like a story. It should be reader friendly. Most of us don't know how to write in a reader friendly manner. Sometimes I receive a thesis and I start reading, and by the time I reach the end of the first page, I feel drowsy. I start yawning because the style is so monotonous. The sentences are of the same length. Every sentence is of the same length. There is no grammatical variation. There is no lexical variation. There are no deviations, relevant deviations. And therefore, I feel tired and bored, and I feel it is monotonous, and I keep it aside for the time being. I don't feel like reading it finishing reading it in one sitting, right? So the Honorable Director's question is very significant. How should we write a title? let's make our title as brief and at the same time as revealing as possible. Let's make our title attention arresting title, attention catching title. The moment I read the title, I must feel, wonderful. This is what a title should be like. So let's be brief. Let's write our titles in, let's write attention arresting, attention catching titles. And let's write our abstract in as few words as possible. And after the abstract, there are keywords. No, people don't know even how to write keywords. They lift any words from the abstract and put them together, dump them together, and they think their job is over. Keywords are those words which are the pivot around which your whole dissertation, your whole thesis rotates or evolves, right? The pivotal expressions, key expressions, right? We talk about a paragraph and we say that every paragraph has a topic sentence. Every paragraph has certain keywords. An abstract is not different. Every abstract has 1 or 2 key sentences or topic sentences and a few 8 to 10 keywords around which the abstract moves, the paper research article moves or rotates, right? And when it comes to writing a whole paper, I usually follow this sequence. I write the title, sometimes a title and a subtitle after a colon. Then I write the abstract in 100 words or 150 words. Then I write keywords. Then I write the background, right? Preamble, background, or preamble, or introduction, and then elaboration. Then I elaborate, then I illustrate, I discuss my propositions, my ideas. And then finally, I write the concluding part. So title, abstract, keywords, title, abstract, keywords, introduction or preamble or preface or foreword, whatever you want to call it, though there are differences. Then discussion or elaboration or explanation, second part, which is very important. And the third part is also very important. I mean, all 3 parts are important, more or less of equal importance. So title, abstract, keywords, introduction, elaboration or discussion or illustration, and then conclusion. That is the sequence that I usually use in my research articles. All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that question. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes. Mic, please. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Prof. That how we can commercialize our findings is how is that
How
we can commercialize our findings in
findings.
findings in what's about in India, how they are doing that findings commercializes.
Yeah, if I understand you right, then what you're trying to say is how do you bring your findings to the notice of the stakeholder? For example, National Institute of Education, right? We are on the premises on the campus of National Institute of Education, and we have carried out research in education, let's say language education or English language education. Now, suppose you have certain conclusions, you've drawn certain conclusions and you want to offer, or you have offered in your thesis certain recommendations. Now, what happens in 99% cases is very disheartening, very disappointing, frustrating. Like I have certain conclusions, I have certain recommendations, and I want my recommendations to be recognized and implemented or satisfied. So you can go, you're lucky to have a wonderful director general. You can go to the director general and say, sir, this is my PhD thesis, and I've studied this. This is my research topic, and I've drawn certain conclusions, and I have certain recommendations to offer to the state, to National Institute of Education or to the Education Commission of Sri Lanka. Now, could you please put in a word to the authorities concerned so that my recommendations are taken cognizance of? My recommendations are implemented at the policy level, policy formation level. So you need to have a proper network for that. You need to advocate your recommendations. You need to advertise. I need to sometimes say to my wife, I love you. She's my wife, but I need to advertise my love at least once or twice a year. Otherwise, she will start suspecting. So you are the researcher and you have certain recommendations for NIE or the Education Commission. You go to the people who are in power, who have the authority, who are empowered, and you try to convince them, try to advocate, try to advertise your recommendations so that at least some of your recommendations are implemented while producing textbooks or while doing summative, formative assessment, etc., etc. So you need to form a pressure group of like-minded people. Like, for example, Dr. Yadav is there, Dr. Dugar is there, I am there. So we have a pressure group, right? And we can pressurize in a positive sense certain people who are in powerful positions, right? And we convince them. So if my recommendations are accepted and implemented, I'm sure there will be a change. You will notice some change in the education scenario in Sri Lanka. So you need to have a pressure group. You need to advertise your recommendations. You need to advocate very strongly in favor of your recommendations. And you need to seek help from people like the Honorable Director General or the chairperson or the vice chairperson of the Education Commission.
Thank you, sir.
I suppose that's what you mean by commercializing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Any other question or comment or story? Yes. Yes. I see a hand raised there. Yes.
Prof, I really want to appreciate you for differentiating between the plot and the story. It was really interesting. I was really impressed.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Yeah. I think, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Actually, I was appreciating your differentiation between plot and the story. It was something very interesting, though I have been a graduate of English, like even I didn't know that there was such a difference. It was interesting. Then there is this particular question I want to raise regarding the length of a research paper. I mean, when I was applying for my master's in a foreign country, like they requested me that I should write a research of about 13,000 words. Like they said that if you write at the, what do you call, like at a very good length, you will be kind of appreciated for that. So what is your perspective on writing really long research? How important is it?
Yeah, I mean, suppose you have to write commissioned research document, commissioned. Somebody has commissioned that, or somebody has asked you to write a paper that runs into 30 pages or 20 pages or 15 pages. Because they have certain conditions and because you want to write a research article, you need to adhere to or abide by those norms set by the people concerned there. But personally speaking, if there is no specification as far as word limit is concerned, I would like to be as brief as possible, as short as possible, and as focused as possible. Because I've evaluated theses which had 2 volumes of 500 pages each. Volume number 1, 500 pages. Volume number 2, 500 pages. That is one PhD thesis. I said, what is this? So sometimes I say, you couldn't make your thesis shorter because you didn't have time. Sounds paradoxical, because if you want to shorten your thesis, you need time. So you couldn't shorten your thesis because you had no time, right? So I would personally go for a thesis or dissertation that is that consists of 200 pages. I'm talking about thesis and dissertation, not about articles. But a similar thing applies to articles. I mean, I've read certain articles, brilliant articles that that consisted of only 5 pages, and PhD, wonderful PhD thesis that ran into 170 pages. But the quality was very high. So I would go for quality rather than quantity. Right?
Yeah, that's
It's an art to be brief. If you want to be brief, you need to master the art of how to be brief. And you need to go through certain process. The first thing, the most important thing that you need to remember is that you must be ruthless. This is not relevant, so I just do away with it. You need to be very merciless and cold-blooded when you are trimming. You want to trim your thesis, right? You want to make it as focused as possible, as you can. So you need to be very merciless. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Cohesion.
Devices, sentence connectors.
Sentence connectors or even tense, for example, you know, you start writing in past tense and you continue writing in the same tense. You cannot hop from present to past, past to future, future to past, past to present. You can't use all those tenses together.
Should we call these transitional devices discourse markers?
Yeah, I mean, in technical jargon, we call them discourse markers. And discourse markers are, by the way, like I want to move from one topic to another. So I say, by the way, and this expression, by the way, gives you the signal that I'm moving from one point to another point. I'm hopping from one point to another point. And these transition markers or these sentence connectors or discourse markers are very important. And most of our students do not know how to use transition markers, right? It's like knitting. You want to knit a sweater. There is a lady who wants to knit a sweater. Knitting is a beautiful art, right? So you knit sentences together. When your writing is cohesive and coherent, and when you have observed the principles of quantity, quality, relation, manner, when you have observed other principles of academic writing, then your paragraphs, your chapters stand together, glue together, say things together, stay together, pray together, convey things together, right? So each of your sentences must stay together with other sentences and pray together with other sentences, pray in a different sense, and convey meanings and messages together, right? So yes, we can call them, or we call them, discourse markers. Yes. Sentence connectors, transition markers. They are also called adjuncts, disjuncts, conjuncts in grammar. Adjuncts, disjuncts, conjuncts. Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I just try to make things as easy, as simple as possible. I try to make things non-technical. You can make it technical if you want to, but I didn't make it technical. I made it very simple because my aim is not to impress you. My aim is to express myself. And my aim is to enable you to understand what I'm saying. Thank you so much for patiently listening. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful opportunity. I cannot thank you enough for this great opportunity. I'm here because you wanted me to be here. We are here because you wanted it, and we have enjoyed the hospitality. The stay is perfect. Food is just gorgeous. I mean, I'm experiencing Sri Lankan hospitality second time. The other day, there were 20 items on the table. I said, my goodness, please don't cook so much. Please don't cook so many items. Just 4 or 5 items are okay. I mean, it's wonderful. And it's spontaneous and genuine and authentic. It's not a kind of artificial air hostess kind of artificial hospitality. Genuine, spontaneous. Thank you so much for everything, sir. I thank the Honorable Director General, Dr. Navratna, and I thank my colleagues and friends, Dr. Darshana Samaravira, and I thank my old friend, old in both ways, because we met 35 years ago, and we have been friends, and she is also old. I'm getting old. I'm 74, she's 73 or 72. I'm referring to Madam Padmini Ranavira. She is not here, but she wanted to be here today for our talk, but I'm sure she has something else to do elsewhere. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you very much, Professor. I was just listening, just like I was meditating. Didn't miss even a single word. And I just gathered 3 things. Your simile regarding the research, that was interesting. That convey the depth of meaning. And the difference between how you distinguish between the story and plot is too interesting. And you concentrated on, so we have the 2 parts in the research, right? So we have the research ideas, how hard we are working. If we can't produce in an understandable, meaningful, coherent and cohesive, if I'm using your words, cohesive and coherent way, so nobody will understand it. So you are concentrating more on rather than the content, how we can produce it. Thank you so much, Professor. I didn't miss even a single word that you said. So interesting. Then thank you very much. And I think, sir, we can invite Professor Patil to have a wonderful 2-3 day sessions that will be profitable. And yeah, I think so, in a research seminar or something like that in the next year, of course, if possible, right? Now, while thanking Professor Patil from India, he came all the way from India just to take part in this event. With him, Dr. Paritosh Dugar and Dr. Mukesh Dev, Dr. Dugar's wife. And thank you very much. And you are going to have wonderful sessions today, and you are going to have a wonderful evening. You can go shopping, right? You can go to the beach and everywhere and enjoy. And now we are going to stop for the tea, and right after tea, so we are going to have one session here, and the other session we are going to have in the multimedia room. So all the presenters, I request you to remain in the seats for 5 minutes, so others can go for the tea. Thank you very much. If I'm not clear, right? So all the presenters who are making their presentations today can stay only for the 5 minutes, right? So we have to sort the things. So others can proceed for the tea. We are going to. No, we have 2 sessions, 2 rooms, multimedia and here. Yeah.